Welcome to Through the Roof, where we explore life inside the walls we call home and the lives we build within them. I'm Ruth, property professional, storyteller and lover of all things home. Each week, we'll open the door to real stories behind the scenes of the property industry, design, inspiration and practical tips for shifting house, creating calm spaces and keeping your home safe, secure and beautifully comfortable. Because whether you own, rent or simply dream, everyone deserves to feel at home. So make yourself at home. You're listening to Through the Roof. Welcome back to Through the Roof. Thank you for joining me again, and today we're talking about something uncomfortable but it's important. What happens when trust breaks down in a tenancy? Because sometimes it's not about a dripping tap, it's about something more important, such as rent paid late repeatedly, damage discovered unexpectedly, or promises not followed through, communication that turns cold. And when trust cracks, everything feels heavier. In Australia, tenancy disputes are not uncommon. Data from various state-based civil administration tribunals, like you got VCAT in Victoria and CAT in New South Wales, and here in South Australia we have SACAT. Their stats show thousands of residential tenancy applications are lodged each year. Now, here's the reassuring part. The majority of tenancies in Australia do not end in tribunal, which tells us something important. Most breakdowns are repairable. Today, we're unpacking why trust breaks, whether it can be rebuilt, when it's time to exit respectfully, and how to turn tension into not being a total warfare. Trust in property is surprisingly simple. It's predictability, and tenants trust that repairs will be handled, lease terms will be honoured, and their home won't suddenly disappear. Landlords, on the other side, trust that rent will be paid consistently, property will be respected, and that communication will be honest. When predictability disappears, anxiety rises on both sides. Financial uncertainty is one of the strongest contributors to household stress in Australia and probably worldwide. So when trust breaks in housing, it's not minor. Housing equals safety. Safety equals emotional regulation, which is why things escalate quickly. So let's call out some common trust breakers. Repeatedly late in rent. 1 late payment, it's human. 5 late payments with no communication, that's called a pattern. You've got hidden damage. Discovering significant damage during inspection without prior report can create shock, or not being reported at all, even at the inspection, and just seeing it. Shock rarely leads to calm emails. You've also got unresolved maintenance looking on the other way. If a tenant feels ignored, they feel disengaged emotionally, and disengaged tenants don't treat properties like homes. You might have the sudden non-renewal of lease when you were expecting a long-term lease and expecting lots of renewals. The communication might be missing. If someone believes they were stable and then suddenly they're not, that feels personal, even if it's a financial decision such as the need to sell. What do tribunal outcomes tell us? Well, a tribunal data from across all the states consistently show that the most common application types relate to rent arrears first, bond disputes, and then property damage or termination applications from either side. But here's the important part. The vast majority of disputes are resolved before a formal hearing. And this tells us that when communication happens early, escalation reduces. When communication happens late, paperwork multiplies. And nobody enjoys paperwork, especially maybe lawyers. And even they probably don't enjoy it at all either. So, can trust be rebuilt? The simple answer is yes, but not with words alone. Trust rebuilds through consistency, transparency, and most importantly, follow through. If you're a tenant who fell behind on their rent, rebuilding trust will look like clear payment plans, payment made exactly when promised, the amount promised, and a proactive update throughout that payment plan. Consistency repairs credibility. And if you're a landlord who maybe delayed some maintenance for a little too long, rebuilding trust will look like acknowledging the delay, promising timeline clarity, and follow through without chasing, without the tenants having to follow it up first to get a response. Repair starts with the ownership of the issue, not defensiveness. So what happens when it's time to part ways then? Well, sometimes trust cannot be rebuilt. Repeated breaches, for example, ongoing hostility is a big reason why, and zero accountability on both or either sides. And that's okay, we are human. Not every tenancy is meant to be lifelong. Ending respectfully is still a success because escalation damages everyone. Emotional stress, financial costs, and the time. Nobody wants drama where it doesn't have to be there. Sometimes the healthiest outcome is to say, look, thank you. We're going to move forward. We're going to move on. We're going to move without a war. Let's get this resolved and part ways. Imagine if we approach tension with this mindset. We're not enemies. We're just adults managing pressure. It changes the energy immediately. It doesn't have to go to tribunal if both sides can look at the empathy of the other side with understanding, not just defensiveness. Here's what I've observed time and time again. When tenancies collapse suddenly, usually it's because of ignored small issues early. When tenancies last, it's often because they address tension quickly, calmly, and clearly. Trust doesn't break in one dramatic explosion. It erodes quietly, and erosion is preventable. If you're in a trust breakdown right now, pause the escalation and ask yourself, is this behavior a pattern or a once-off? Have I communicated clearly? Have I assumed intent? Then choose repair or release. Both are valid. There's no right answer for everybody, but you can do it with respect either way. In a country where nearly 1/3 of households rent, landlord-tenant trust shapes more than buildings. It shapes stress levels, it shapes financial outcomes, and it shapes community stability. Trust will wobble sometimes, that's human, but repair is possible when the ego steps aside. And if the repair isn't possible, end it respectfully and go your own ways. Because the heart of home is not just bricks, it's behaviour and community. So until next time, thank you again for listening. If you've enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow Through the Roof wherever you get your podcasts. And if you've got a story about your home and your experiences, I would love to hear from you. You can reach out, ruth@thepmboutique.com.au. So until next time, take a deep breath, look around and remember, home is what you make it.